Bueno, estamos con Wolf Hoffmann en lo que es la sexta visita de Accept a Argentina. Estamos acá en el hotel haciendo una pequeña entrevista. So, Wolf, okay, to start with the interview. You are presenting here The Rise of Chaos, your new album. For me personally, it's my favorite from all the four you have done with Mark, because I guess it's the one that has the more metal anthems. So I like it a lot. I noticed some elements guitar-wise that make me remember albums like Objection, Overrule and Death Row from the 90s, some small parts. So which I consider that were very modern and perhaps heavier in the time the album came out, those albums, you know?
Right.
So was this an intentional direction to include some elements from these 90s albums? Le pregunto a Wolf, le digo que The Rise of Chaos es mi disco favorito de los cuatro que hicieron con Mark, y le digo que noté ciertos elementos de los discos Objection, Overrule y Death Row de los 90, y le pregunto si fue intencional o no incorporar estos elementos un poco más pesados.
Well, you see, it's almost impossible to direct to plan these things to that detail. You really just write the songs at the time when you write them. And you write them the way they come out, and you cannot really say up front, well, I'm going to write an album that has these and those nuances. You really just write in the mood that you're in, and whatever comes out, comes out. And you know, of course, you have to be your own judge, and you have to sort of filter the stuff. Which, other words, we write a lot of songs, you know, like, I don't know, 100 songs, and we pick the 10 best ones that we can find. But it's impossible to really fine-tune a direction up front. They just sort of take a life on their own, and when you're in the studio, you just give the song what you think it needs, and that's really all the influence you have. You know?
Okay. And Analog Man, the song, for me has perfect lyrics. You know?
Yeah.
Do you relate to them? Do you miss old times regarding technology? Can you elaborate a little bit on this? Le estoy preguntando a Wolf, sorry. Le digo que el tema Analog Man, que habla de un hombre analógico que extraña los viejos tiempos de la tecnología, tiene como la letra perfecta, y le pregunto si él se considera un hombre análogo y si extraña viejos tiempos tecnológicamente hablando.
Well, Analog Man really has a funny backstory, because it was Mark who has been saying this sentence, I'm an analog man trapped in a digital world. He's been saying that for years. You know, because he doesn't like computer stuff, and he tries to be analog. Of course, he can't be analog because nobody can really be fully analog anymore. As soon as you have a computer or an iPhone, you're digital. But that's, you know, it sort of inspired us to write that song, because we all struggled with that same. Yeah, we all have to fight that same fight. You know, like how much. But there's no way to turn back the time, really.
No,
so I'm more of a digital guy than Mark is. But you know,
you don't miss the old times.
Well, sometimes you do, but you have no choice. You can't turn back the time, you know. We have to move with the time. So I've tried to embrace digital technology, but even I sometimes hate it all, because I want to smash it all with a big fat hammer.
Yeah.
You know, like we all do. It's that constant struggle.
Yeah.
But it was all based on a real story within the band.
Okay. And well, Kool-Aid surprised me because it dwells with a very dark subject.
Sure.
But the song is quite happy, like an ACD song, if I can relate to that.
A little bit, yeah, sure.
Melody-wise. Which other Accept songs that are about dark or deep subjects are your favorite ones, and why? Can you recall? Not from this era only, maybe from all times.
Well, how about Balls to the Wall? That's a pretty dark subject.
Le estoy preguntando a Wolf que el tema Kool-Aid, que habla de un tema bastante oscuro y profundo, tiene una melodía bastante alegre y es como una canción de AC/DC en cuanto a la rítmica, y le pregunto qué otros temas de de Accept, que tiene temática oscura o así profunda, son sus favoritos y por qué.
Yeah, how about Balls to the Wall? You know, it's a pretty dark subject. It's about, you know, the suppressed people of the world uprising against their oppressors. At the end of the day, that's what that song is all about. Most people don't realize it, but it's also a very serious and dark subject in a way. But, you know, I think it goes well with heavy metal. We never really talk much about love and peace and happiness. That's not what metal is all about. It's about, you know, sort of things like that. We have a long tradition of writing songs in that thing.
In Balls to the Wall, you were talking mainly about the German stuff that happened?
Not so much, really. It was more about people all over the world. I mean, whether it's the Arab Spring or the people in communist countries, anybody sort of standing up for their rights. And you know, the underlying thought in Balls to the Wall has always been, if people just unite and stand up and fight against dictators or whoever is suppressing them, they don't have a chance. You know, as soon as people get together and say we've had enough, then no force and no military in the world can stop them. You know, but it rarely ever happens.
Yeah, very difficult
It's very
to achieve
difficult.
that.
Exactly.
Okay. You visited Argentina 2 times in the 90s, touring the albums that I mentioned before, Objection, Overrule, and Dead Row. This is the 6th visit from Accept to our country. And what do you think that in terms of touring has changed over the decades, the 80s, the 90s, and the new millennium, regarding touring live and booking and choosing countries and everything? Le estoy preguntando a Wolf, le estoy diciendo, bueno, que recordando que él vino 2 veces a la Argentina en los 90 y esta es la 3ª vez que viene, la 4ª vez que viene en el nuevo milenio, y le estoy preguntando qué cree él que cambió en cuanto a la vida de tours y elegir países para visitar y todo en los 80, 90 y en el nuevo milenio.
You know, surprisingly little has changed, quite honestly. Everything else in the music business has changed dramatically. The way we record the albums, the way we distribute the music, the way we sell it, all that stuff is completely different from 20, 30 years ago. But really, touring is still about packing your guitar and go on a plane and travel to another country and perform the show. So we have different tools nowadays, but really the principle of playing a show to an audience, that's exactly the same as it was back then.
It's as easy and smooth as it was before?
Yeah, I mean, some things get easier, others get much more difficult, like traveling on airplanes, for instance, all these restrictions, you can't take anything anymore. It used to be easier in the 80s, but so be it. But really the process of being on stage and, you know, firing up the audience and the audience firing up you, that's exactly the same as it was back then. So that's a good thing. I don't think that will ever go away. No digital technology can change that experience, I don't think. I mean, nowadays they have holograms and all these things, so that's, I don't know what to think of that, but really what we do is still the one-on-one contact with the audience.
Can I ask you about that, the holograms live?
I've never seen it, so I don't know what that experience, it sounds like a weird concept to me.
You know, I'm talking about the Ronnie James Dio hologram, playing kind of weird.
It's totally weird.
Le estoy preguntando el holograma de Dio que va a venir de gira a Argentina el año que viene. ¿Qué
so
opina?
Just the thought that maybe one day there's going to be a machine reproducing my image is like, really? I don't like it much, you know. But then again, I haven't seen it, you know. But I imagine it'd be a very strange experience.
Yeah, I guess Ronnie was an analog man himself.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think he has a say anymore, you know. Now it's up to other people.
Think so. Many bands are touring now with anniversary tours of a specific album of their careers.
I know.
Do you have at some point the idea to do the same thing? For example, with the 35th anniversary of Restless and Wild on Balls to the Wall. I don't mean reuniting with Udo, I mean with the new lineup.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Le estoy preguntando, que le estoy diciendo, bueno, que muchas bandas están haciendo tours aniversarios, como hizo Halloween ahora, festejando el aniversario de un respectivo álbum, y si ellos piensan hacerlo en algún futuro próximo con Restless and Wild on Balls to the Wall.
Probably not. I mean, I've never been a huge fan of this whole idea. It seems to me like a marketing gimmick more than anything, because in our age we could have an anniversary every year, because it was 35 years ago, Restless and Wild, 40 years ago this, 30 years that. Every year would be another anniversary, and to be honest, we're so busy with promoting our current stuff that we don't really feel the need to do all that nostalgia stuff. You know, every year we have a new album, or every other year, and you know, we've made 4 albums and a live album, so it's 5, and I made a solo album. That's 6 releases in 8 years, so I don't think we need to bother with any anniversary stuff at the moment. Maybe one day when we have nothing else, no other ideas.
Yeah, it's like a nostalgia.
I understand it.
Yeah,
and we've done actually one show once where we played the complete album, and it was okay, but
quite honestly, I think we have a perfect set list of old songs and new songs, and you know, I wouldn't rule it out, but at the moment, I've always said, why bother? You know.
All right. Okay. I have friends that only listen to classical music because they are classical players as well.
Yeah.
And for them, it's very difficult to appreciate what a metal musician does with classical pieces. They are like purists, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Being a classical listener and enthusiast yourself, but also a metal man, how would you explain to those people how to approach modern guitar versions of those classics? Le estoy preguntando a Wolf, le estoy diciendo que tengo muchos amigos que son tocan música clásica, son fans de música clásica y que les es muy difícil escuchar a un hombre de heavy metal haciendo versiones de temas clásicos. ¿Cómo le recomendaría él a esa gente tan purista escuchar versiones metaleras de temas clásicos, de música clásica?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I would want to explain it to purists, because purists are purists. They're not going to get it. But this album wasn't done for purists. It was done for people like me, who like classical music, but they also like metal. So I was just trying to have fun and combine the best of both worlds the way that I see it fit. But I'm in no way trying to convince any old school classical freaks. You know, this is not what this album is for. You know, my target audience is more like metal fans, average people who like both worlds enough to appreciate what it is. You know.
Cool. Okay.
Well, not many know that you are a renowned photographer in the States. You still live in the States.
I do.
Okay. Please explain which kind of photography did you do over the years, and do you still keep yourself as active as before in this field? Le estoy preguntando, bueno, que no muchos saben que Wolf es un reconocido fotógrafo, y le pregunto que explique un poquito qué clase de fotografía ha hecho a lo largo de los años y si todavía se mantiene activo en esta actividad, profesión.
Yeah, for me the whole photography thing started 20, 30 years ago when we were starting to go on the road to all these great places like the US and Japan and all over the world. So I wanted to capture all that stuff, and so it started as a hobby, just taking snapshots in national parks and, you know, in cities and wherever we went. And then when Accept came to a break, you know, I thought to myself, this is the second best thing in life that I have. You know, music has always been number one, but if music can't happen, then I jumped full force into photography. So I started to really learn it from the ground up with film and, you know, Polaroids and all that, you know, the old-fashioned, the analog way.
I started the same way.
Yeah. I had a huge dark room, so I went the whole route. Yeah, I wanted to be a little Ansel Adams for a little while. And then slowly I gravitated towards a field where, you know, money can be made, because at some point you ask yourself, all right, I like photography, but you want to support yourself. So I started doing commercial photography for companies, basically. You know, big company like FedEx and Exxon and whoever had the most money, pretty much, you know. So that's what I did for many years.
And do you still do that?
I did in the first few years that Accept was active, but to be honest, now the last 2 years I haven't done much at all. You know, just because I'm constantly on the road, and like I said earlier, if I have a choice, I'd much rather do music full force. But, you know, for a while, for almost 10, 15 years, I had a great time.
And just for pleasure, who would be your favorite photography field to do, kind of photography to do?
Oh man, yeah, there's so many great old masters like Avedon, for instance, or people like that. I mean, they've done incredible work, and of course, I'm just a little guy, and I never had the ambition to be in Avedon or be in all the museums. I never did really fine art photography or fashion photography or anything, because there's so many specialized fields in photography that, as you know, you can be an art photographer, you can be a car photographer, a food photographer, and there's so many different fields.
Photography.
Oh, totally. So I was just a commercial guy, shooting people, mostly portraits. That's what interests me. Good portraits of people, which is not that easy. It sounds easy, but it can be quite difficult, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Beyond the obvious technical improvement that photography has nowadays, with all these modern equipment, which are the skills that you think a photographer needs to maintain over the years to be considered talented? I mean, which are for you the basics of a talented photographer beyond owning a top technical equipment? Le estoy preguntando, además de todo el equipo moderno que existe hoy de fotografía a disposición de cualquiera, ¿cuál cree él que son las características que debe tener un fotógrafo para ser considerado talentoso? Que deben ser las mismas que eran antes y que aún continúan siendo ahora.
Well, the most important one is probably a sense of composition. You gotta have an eye for the way, how to frame a picture and to catch the moment. And then when you're shooting people, it's also about communicating with their subject. You know, it's not enough to just wait for them to do something. You also have to direct them and say, sit this way, do this, do that, and then that's also a little bit of an art form. And interestingly enough, there's a big difference between good live photographers who can shoot a show, you know, music photographers, for instance, but that doesn't mean necessarily they can shoot or direct people because they're not used to that, you know.
Yeah.
It's completely different if you have to set up your lights and talk to people and say, hey, you stand there, you do this, you do that.
Sure.
You know, it's completely different from just going to a concert and going click, click, seeing what's in front of you.
Studio is one thing and directing people.
Studio photography is completely, So there's...
I relate live photography like wildlife photography.
Totally. You sit in the bushes and wait for the lion to do something. And
not just sitting, but you have to...
Oh yeah, or maybe you have to jump up a tree or something.
Of course. Okay. Well, this is the end. I'm going to ask you how long this tour is going to last for the new album, and when are you going to end, which will be the last concert?
Right now we're planning shows all the way in... Oh, sorry, you wanted to translate?
Okay. Le pregunto a Wolf, gracias. Le pregunto a Wolf cuánto va a durar el tour del nuevo disco de Rise of Chaos y dónde planean terminar la gira.
Right now we're planning shows all the way into the summer of 2018 and beyond, so we'll stay on the road for quite some time.
Okay.
Yeah. Next year, end of next year is where we are currently. So, but at some point we'll go back into the studio. But man, you got to give us a little break because we've really been back to back to back.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to rest for a few months at some point.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds fair. Okay. Thank you for this interview. I hope to see you tonight. I'm sure I will be shooting you tonight in the concert.
Yes, please. Okay? Like the guy with the lion.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Right on.
it's okay.